We are just a few minutes ahead of schedule, which is wonderful, except I know that our award-winning teachers are going to be joining us, maybe running right from a classroom, and so they might not be ready to join until the exact time that we told them, 10:15. So is Jennifer, are you there, Roble, to let me know? Are you able to tell if you've got all the teachers here? If we want to start with the panel, or should we give them another couple minutes?
I sent them a message a few minutes ago. If we could give them a couple more minutes, if anybody needed to take a break. I have three, I think, are on right now, and I'm just waiting on a couple more. Thank you.
Yeah, so if people can promise to make it a short break, we will get going back at right around 11:15, but that gives you 3 minutes, hopefully enough time to top off a coffee cup or something else, and we will get back at 10:15 and get going with our panel then.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right, welcome back, folks. And hopefully that was enough time for at least a brief break. And Jennifer, what I'm wondering, and we can have this slide up here as I'm assuming you're going to go through and have people introduce themselves. But then does it work if I stop sharing just so we can see everyone better during the panel? Or would you like me to continue sharing so that I have the questions up on the screen that you're going to be asking the teachers?
I think it would be better. It's up to you, but I think it would be better if we could see everybody.
Yeah, okay.
And I see two regional teachers of the year on here. I can't see everybody.
Okay. So you want to give another minute or two for people to log on?
Well, the two on here are very capable of answering all these questions, so we can start that way in
Okay,
the, to save everybody time. I don't want to take up too much time.
that's fine. So I'll stop sharing and kind of turn it over to you then.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for having us here again this year. We always look forward to speaking with all of you and answering your questions and maybe asking some of you questions as well. And I also do want to take a moment to thank Central Michigan University, if they're on, I saw Dr. Davidson on here earlier, for their partnership with the teacher candidate forums in October and March, and also their partnership in the upcoming job fairs. And if anybody else would like to be a partner with us, we more than happy to welcome you into our little bubble here. So first I want to start, and I think it's Sasha and Molly that are on here. And so Molly and Sasha, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then I will, oh, and Kelly Kuzmano's right there too. And I will start the question. So Sasha, go ahead.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. I'm Sasha Wakefield. I'm a teacher of 20 years, secondary education, math. I currently am at Clio High School. And I also have a 21-year-old daughter who is in the teaching program at SVSU.
Thank you, Molly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Dunham. I am a 30-year third grade teacher at Kingsley Elementary School, which is a little south of Traverse City in Region 2. I also am the new teacher mentor program coordinator for our district. And this year I'm serving as the curriculum director. So I wear a lot of hats. One of my other gigs is that I have been an adjunct faculty for CMU in the teacher ed program when they housed classes at the University Center in Traverse. So I taught EDU 380 for CMU probably 6 or 7 times. So I have some experience with some teacher prep programs. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Molly. And Kelly?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Kuzmano. I represent Region 9, so the Oakland County, Wayne, and Macomb area. And I'm really thrilled to be the Michigan Teacher of the Year for 2024-2025. And I got my undergrad from Michigan State, but I did marry a Wolverine, so I see the U of M emblems. I'm going to let that go. And I also have had interns in I've been teaching 20 years. I've had student teachers from Oakland University primarily, but we've also had Central and Michigan State. So super excited.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, let's get started. Everyone on the call has the questions in advance, and I'm going to skip around a little bit depending on the answers from the teachers of the year. And please, anybody who has a question, please jump in, interrupt. I don't take offense to that. This is all a partnership. So first, I'm going to start with for Kelly.
No. So there's no one here. Everyone's out sick, and he's
What?
badly. So
I hear some.
okay.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah, can we make sure? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if someone was talking already. What do new teachers need to know going into the classroom? And I know you all have 20 and 30 years of experience, but think back to those moments where you were walking in for the first time, and for your interns that you have and will continue to have. Anybody jump in?
I'll jump in first. I think the number one thing is that I struggled with as a novice teacher was classroom management. And as a coach, as a peer coach right now, that's still something that I spend a lot of time helping other teachers with, teachers that have been teaching a few, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And so I think that, I know that every teacher prep program has, classroom management instruction, but I think that there are a lot of ways we could scaffold that learning and partner that learning with more classroom experience. And so I think that classroom management is definitely an area where, it really helps make or break their first few years of teaching.
Thank you, Molly. Sasha or Kelly?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to teachers, novice teachers about ready to go out into the field behind closed doors right before they graduated. And the number one part after they finished their student teaching, they they were really kind of not frustrated, but they felt overwhelmed of special education and they didn't really know. They felt like they were just very unprepared of what that looks like in practice and what can they do and what can't they do. And they just had so many questions. And I know a lot of it will get answered once they start that first year. But that was an anxiety amongst all of them of what it looks like in the classroom for special education. They just felt like they wanted more in-depth information on how to accommodate, on how to make modifications. And so I didn't really have those answers, and so like, wait and see.
I think for me, when I have considered this question, I think for me, what I've noticed a lot of struggling with, at least at the high school level, and it kind of goes with what Sasha's commentary was, that there are some basic kind of classroom content things that are taught, especially at the high school. And if those kind of like, for example, ninth grade, it's pretty much default in English that Romeo and Juliet is a text that most ninth graders teach. So it'd be really helpful to use even that text and be like, how would we differentiate this? What would that look like? Because then I feel like a lot of my interns struggle with the classroom management part, but also with the content. So if some of those things could be taught in conjunction, that would be really helpful and kind of hit two things at once.
And to piggyback off what you said, Kelly, I think that when we teach, I've taught elementary methods. Well, actually I taught methods to K-12 people who are preparing to teach K-12. And what oftentimes the methods classes, the examples that are given are not rooted in what those people are actually going to teach. So, I mean, I think that having those methods, those specific teaching strategies that are being taught at those right before their student teaching internship during those classes need to be very specific with some of the content that they're going to be teaching. And I think that pairing those strategies with specific content might help.
And thank you, Molly. That kind of goes right into our second question about how can we prepare teacher candidates better to work with available staff and resources. So Sasha or Kelly, do you want to kind of follow Molly?
Yeah, I can definitely go. I think that it would be helpful to run like situations. Like, this is a situation, who would you go to for this? Or I think if they've been prepared with those types of situations before they're faced with them, that would be really helpful.
I'm gonna piggyback, Sasha, again on what you just said. And I remember at Michigan State during my student teaching year, I remember us specifically asking our professor if instead of the instruction he was doing, if we could bring up hypothetical scenarios and he could show us how he would have handled that or what we should consider, because that's what we craved, was kind of that this is what it's like. Here's, the tools in your toolbox that you can use. And that, I mean, it was 20 years ago and I still remember that we did that. So it obviously made a big impact on me as a young educator.
And Kelly, with those scenarios that you were just talking about, do you think it would be helpful to have scenarios around student behaviors in classrooms?
110%. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Talk about that a little bit more.
I think that, like, for example, I remember, and again, I taught high school. I graduated 22 years old, right? So I had 16 and 17-year-olds. Visibly, I looked like them, right? And I remember the first time a kid was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, what? And I didn't know, should I be a bad cop? Should I be good cop? Like, should I not be a cop at all? And, ask him to sit down. How do I address this specific student without alienating the rest of my class? Like, I had no idea. And I remember being just rocked back on my heels. And yes, some of that is the job. We're not going to be able to troubleshoot everything, but it would have been nice for me to be like, okay, this is what I can do, right? And so I really think that practicing those scenarios, even role playing would have been helpful, because then I would have had that confidence to be like, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that all the needs of all the students are met, not just, you know, little Johnny sitting over in the corner having a meltdown and then focusing. So, Sasha and Molly, what do you think?
Yeah,
I
I
think-
also think that we can do it with, sorry, Molly, with
Oh, go ahead, Sasha.
parents, right? Like,
Mhm.
how do you talk to a parent, or how would you respond to this email? That's huge, because I think that sometimes they're really afraid of parents, and parents are our friends, are our partner. They're in this with us, and to be able to teach those new teachers, to be able to partner with them, but scenarios with parents as well would be helpful.
I think a lot of role playing is amazing because one of the things that they might not, new teachers might not realize is how emotional those interactions can become with students, and they might not know how they're going to feel, and because maybe they've not been in that situation. I mean, all of a sudden you've got, you know, a 5th grade student who's saying, absolutely not, I'm not doing that, and you can't make me. So then what? Well, actually, what can we do? And how do you handle the emotions you feel? Because, you know, you can't act on your emotions because you're really mad right then. You know, how do you very calmly say, well, you have 2 choices. You know, you can do it right now, or you can do it during your whatever time. You know, I mean, just role playing and having those conversations with novice teachers before so they can think through how they're going to feel, and maybe start to feel a little piece of that through the role play, so they can kind of make a plan, or it doesn't feel so overwhelming the first few times it happens.
So kind of feeding off of that, with that PD in your in-service for a new teacher or a teacher candidate, what else could the EPPs do to prepare their candidates? That's a big question.
I have one very specific thing, and that is most all schools are evaluating teachers based on a certain evaluation model. Some of them are Marzano models, some use Danielson. There are different models. I've had student teachers almost every year from 5 or 6 different universities, and they've never had any teaching surrounding those evaluation models. This gives them a lot of anxiety, because the first observation when they're going to be evaluated as a new teacher is usually in October, and the evaluation is based on that criteria that they've never experienced before. So when I taught for EDU 380 for CMU, I always taught the Marzano model. I always taught how I modeled how to teach lessons even at the college level using Marzano. So all of my lessons were delivered in that way. So they not only learned the content, but they experienced a classroom run that way every time I taught. And that was pretty powerful, but that also takes a lot of training. And I mean, most university staff members don't have knowledge of that. That would take new training for them, but that would be huge, because this is how these people are going to be evaluated, and it does give them a lot of comfort when they start to understand some of those teaching practices and how to use them.
Perfect, thank you. Sasha or Kelly? Go ahead.
I just see a big disconnect between the lesson plans and reality of lesson plans. Like, there's no teacher currently right now that I know of that is 8 pages of lesson plans, and I understand the unpacking of it, and that maybe hopefully the differentiation, but they're never going to do that, and so I would rather the new teachers come with knowledge of lesson plans, but not to the extent of what they are, and like, how can we make them better instead of longer, I guess. You know, like, where's that part where Kelly was talking about this is I don't know, solving 2-step equations, and this is how you would differentiate, right? But it doesn't have to be that long. It doesn't have to be all this extra stuff, because they're really not learning from that, is kind of what I see as well. They want to get to the nuts and bolts of what that lesson is and how to differentiate and how to meet the needs of students. But really, that's it. And I can't imagine it being 8 pages for one lesson every single day. So I'd like to see kind of that go away and be more applicable for new teachers.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, I think for me, one thing I see, and like I said, you all are in college level doing the Lord's work because of what we've seen at the high school level. But something that I think should be embedded in any prep program is that piece about adulting and how to deal with those things that come up on the job that lately we're seeing some of our candidates completely shut down, right? They take any sort of mistake as a failure that they, are not going to survive as an adult. They're going to live in a van down by the river type vibe. Not to throw the SNL out there for anyone, but I just think that it is so helpful in that training to talk about things. Like I was constantly being like, you're not going to get fired. There are things that happen that are part of the rigor of this job, and kind of helping them separate between, yes, these are absolute no-nos, like these are things, but these are things that are going to happen, that you may make a mistake, but here's how we learn and build from that. And again, I feel like that role playing we were talking about with classroom behavior can really be emblematic for just the learning on the job training and how we build from that. That sounds very philosophical, but that's my big picture answer.
Perfect. Sasha, what was one of the most valuable PDs that you were engaged in during your in-service?
I don't have one that sticks out because I don't love the professional developments currently right now. So sorry to say that. However, I do champion, and I say all the time, we need to find a nugget in every single professional development and look for one instead of just instantly saying this isn't for me. Always try to find one to take away. If I could overhaul the professional development that teachers get, oh, sign me up. I would love that. But just always telling, and when I present and when I am sitting, I'm like, okay, everybody at the table, we need to find one thing. We've got to at least find one thing to take with us, and there is something there. So just keeping that open mind. But yeah, sorry, I can't. There's none.
It's honest. We're here to be honest, right? Molly, how about you?
Well, I'm in the unique position right now to be providing professional development for my district, for my 90 teachers, which is a pretty cool thing to do. And what I did is kind of did a systems inventory of teams so that I could see where I gave them a list of things that I felt like I was qualified to lead, and said, what kind of a grocery list, what would make you a higher successful team, like more successful as a team. And so a few of the things that I've been working on with them are curriculum mapping. Obviously I'm the curriculum director, so that makes sense, but data analysis is something big that my teams really wanted to dive into data and have kind of a protocol for how to use data to inform instruction. So I've been working a lot with them on that. And I am proud to say that last night I ran a 2-hour PD, and some of my toughest nuggets reached out to me this morning and said, wow, thank you. You taught, I learned so much, and that was such a valuable use of time. And I'm so excited to put these things into play next week. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing feedback. So I'm feeling really happy today about that. The other thing that, so survey your people and see what they need is one thing I would suggest. Personally, one of my favorite trainings that I've ever been a part of are the Kagan structures, the cooperative learning training. And that was a game changer for me. I've always been a strong disciplinarian, like I'm a very good classroom manager, but it was very hard for me to, give the children lots of talk time, and, a whole bunch of 8-year-olds discussing, how higher level can that be? I always thought, what's going on? Oh my goodness. When I was trained in Kagan, it was initially a 5-day training, which was very long in the summer. But it was amazing. And it transformed what I could do, because it transformed my student engagement, and it really allowed my students to think at a higher level cooperatively and solve problems cooperatively. So if I had to say the best professional development that I've ever been a part of that's transformed my teaching, it would be Kagan structures, cooperative learning.
Thank you. Kelly?
So I'm in charge of professional learning for my district. So I'll start, or one of the people, because I'll start with like when you have a district that is as large as mine, it is herding cats for sure. Like today, I just met with 40 just English teachers, high school English teachers from across the district. So I think that that is one thing that I have found valuable, though, is when we're not treated as one entity. Because I think every grade level, every discipline has very specific needs and wants and energies. So I love when our district or I attend some place with choice that gives a variety of experiences, like anything ed camp style. Is super powerful and meaningful. And I just feel better when I choose something myself. I feel much more ownership in the process. I hate that top-down model. And God bless anybody who puts that together for a district as large as mine. Like I always know it's easier to do it that way, but the most powerful learning I've ever had comes out of an ed camp style where I'm able to choose from a menu of options.
Perfect. What are the EPPs doing well? Molly, Kelly?
You go first, Molly.
One of the things I think they're doing very well are the student teachers that I have come very well prepared for the content of elementary. I know that might be different at different levels, but and I know that our content isn't particularly challenging, but what's challenging about teaching elementary school self-contained is that you have to look at all the leading research about reading and the leading research about math and the leading research about everything else and do it all well. And I feel like the candidates that I've had in the last 10 years have been more well-rounded, more prepared to handle conversations at a higher level with students in all subject matter, even though they have been, they're subject matter specific. So anyways, I feel like just the content of the coming out of elementary programs is good. The methods are good. And I feel like there are some very, very solid people. I've been that we try to hire our student teachers. So it's always really fun.
Can I piggyback off of what Molly said? Because my next door neighbor was my former mentee at Rochester. Like she was one of my interns and we hired her because she was so fabulous. But I do think one of the strengths I see overall is, at least with Oakland University, and I speak with that because that's it's literally right around the corner from Rochester. One of the things I really liked is they value those high quality HTLPs, and I think they've been named different things, and I always get behind on the acronyms, but I really like that there were targeted skills. So it was like, discussion, and let's talk about that, because I felt like in those targeted skills, that's where they really shone. And Oakland, one of the things I also really liked is they valued practicing teachers' voices in the process. Like classroom teachers want to be a part of this next profession. That's why, Jen, I'm so glad we're sitting on this, because we want to help us, help you. Like we really value that voice being there. So I think that's something Oakland has done a really nice job with, is including teachers in the process.
Yes, thank you. I forgot to mention Oakland, and I know there's someone is looking directly at me from Oakland. Yep, there it goes. I saw that as soon as it came out of my mouth. I'm like, oh. Okay, thank you for those answers. What supports would you like to see the EPPs give candidates seeking their first position? I know we talked about classroom management and being in there for the first couple days or weeks or years, but like we have job fairs coming up. What other supports would you like to see them hand off to their candidates?
Sorry, I'm gonna say, how with a lot of professional development, they talk about your elevator pitch?
Mhm.
Like we need that. And because I've sat in many interview spaces, and I gotta be honest, the first couple of minutes, I usually have an idea Like I really usually do. And I think those first 5 minutes when you walk in or when you shake hands or whatnot, that is so valuable. And I also, and again, I'm speaking as a content specific, but I literally ask in every interview, what's your favorite book to teach? Because if somebody doesn't have an answer for me, I'm like, meh. Like then you just want a job. You don't want a high school English position. Like, so I think being able to speak about your joy and your passion in those first 5 minutes is key. And we were down between two candidates for an English teacher position. The one who got the job had no experience. She was from, college level, and my principal was nervous, but the way she answered the questions about like the joy for her students was all over her face. And in 5 minutes, we were all like, yep, we can teach her everything, but you can't teach passion. You can't teach joy. So that has to be communicated in the first 5 minutes.
Perfect. Sasha?
That was perfect. That's exactly what I have for that. Like, that was amazing. Yes, all of that. Yes.
Perfect. Molly, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, it's sort of, it's similar to what Kelly said, but I think that the more communication skills these teachers come out of the university having, the better. It really, this whole job is communication, as you all know. But what I see is that even just the communication, like the interpersonal communication, working on a team, being a team player with your co-teachers, collaborating with other people about student difficulties, or when students need help, communicating with parents, with students. It's just all kinds of communication. And so the more opportunities they have to be able to take communications classes and practice their communication skills in all those different areas and those realms. A lot of it is on the job training, obviously, but boy, oftentimes the difference between a successful teacher and somebody who ends up leaving the profession are people that can communicate and who can't, so any way that you can help with communication, I think, is beneficial, hugely beneficial.
Perfect. And to feed off of that, how about on the curriculum side? What could EPPs do to help new teachers or first 3-year teachers with the curriculum part of the classroom?
I think, just to jump in on a comment I said earlier, like just kind of being mindful of the current, like at least with English, but in any other high school world, the current standards that are being employed and what that looks like. Because again, like I know that Romeo and Juliet by and large is taught in 9th grade all over the country, really. And if it's not, that's fine, but that's a starting place. I know that there's American literature being taught in some capacity. What are those common texts look like? College Board, there's a national curriculum for that with AP. With our science, like next gen science standards, like we have now, thank you, like a set of standards for, at least with the high school disciplines, that can really be helpful for candidates to know about. Because I remember that question about what's your favorite book to teach, I remember asking, and somebody answered that question with Dante's Inferno. And I'm thinking, we would never teach Dante's Inferno in high school. So like that shows to me a disconnect between what you think we're teaching and what is actually being taught. And so that's at least curriculum wise. Although I sometimes feel like I'm in Dante's Inferno, not gonna lie. So
Sasha?
Yeah, I notice, and I'm frequently when a new teacher is talking about like a resource, like a textbook or the resources that we use, and they refer to them as the curriculum. And I was like, oh no, that's not the curriculum. The curriculum is our state standards, our Common Core Michigan adopted state standards, but what you're referring to is the resource that supports the curriculum. And just understanding the difference, that the textbook is not the curriculum, right? It is a resource that supports the curriculum. So I feel like I'm constantly saying, I'm sorry, what? That was the resource, not the actual curriculum. So that would be helpful for them to understand the difference between the two, and understand that like that's just not, like they want something in front of them and just do this. And so you kind of have to read your students, and you kind of have to see where they're at. And then from there you can pivot and you can grab resources. and have lots of conversations. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to other teachers, and don't be afraid to show some resources and say, hey, I found this resource that would be kind of cool. And how could I implement that in there? Just kind of be open to lots of resources that are out there, but it's not your curriculum.
And I think also they need to know that it's okay to go to their district to say, hey, can we teach this? I'll write something up for you. Is this possible? Not just, I have to stick to what's put in front of me. Molly?
I'm going to take it a slightly different direction, and that is that I think that no matter what curricular materials you're using, we call them primary delivery vehicles, like whatever vehicle you're using to deliver your curriculum standards. There are certain strategies that work well to teach and learn, and certain strategies that are archaic. And so I think that higher level thinking, questioning type strategies are something I would love to see people learn. I end up including this with my new teacher programming a lot, like how to run higher level thinking, classroom interaction, how to write questions that aren't just yes or no, don't require a yes or no answer, but require the why and the how, kids to think more deeply, give kids think time, then allow them to talk with a shoulder partner, then don't call on hands raised, cold call. Like there are questioning strategies that elicit higher engagement and higher order thinking. And I don't know, that's something that will help novice teachers, no matter what content they're delivering. I spend a lot of time talking about those things with my new teachers.
Great, thank you. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about what technologies do beginning trainers need to master before entering the profession? And that's changed a lot with COVID. So who wants to take that one first?
Okay, can I say that like it needs to be a shifting process? Like, so it's not so much the technology, but that willingness to pivot because technology is changing so fast. And I think they need to be adept at multiple systems, multiple grading systems need to be looked at, multiple modalities of instruction, like it was PowerPoint, then it was Google Slides, now Canva is the new thing. And like, I've had to throughout my career try to be adept in all of them. And I think that just being able to learn new technologies and even throwing some things out in those assignments, like this time I want you to use this tool, this time I want you to use that. Yes, it might be frustrating as a student. Like thinking back, if I was a student, I'd probably be livid about it, but I think it is really important because teachers are commonly asked, like the district didn't have enough for this tool, so now we have to go here, and so on and so forth. And I think that is really valuable to just that being able to shift.
I want to say that when I started teaching 30 years ago, the audio visual equipment was an overhead projector. And I was very excited when I had different color markers for my overhead, the vis-a-vis markers. I even had like yellow. I had every color of the rainbow, and that was exciting. So it's a lot different now. I think that as AI is becoming so prevalent, we need to really pivot, like Kelly said. We need to be able to figure out how we're going to utilize that to our advantage. And I know that there's a lot of research being done right now in how to use AI and what to do with it. I also feel like just giving kids choice and allowing them to, if they feel more comfortable doing a presentation on Canva, great. If they'd rather make a poster with markers because, they're an art kid, have some talent in that, pencil paper. I feel like giving them choices and how to represent their knowledge oftentimes will include technology, but then for some kids that maybe aren't as comfortable using some of those tools, they get some choice too. So, but yeah, us being able to pivot is key.
Tasha?
I would say to be able to teach these young teachers just to be flexible in their thinking in general and have an open mindset, because the only thing that is constant in education is change, and technology is always going to be changing. And so just kind of be just flexible and open-minded to, don't be scared to reach out and ask questions. No one's going to view you as stupid and you don't know what you're doing, that we're all in this together, and just can we really be optimistic of technology and don't be afraid of it and incorporate it. And if something didn't work, doesn't mean you're not going to use that technology again. Why didn't that work very well? And then it's just what you do with that particular mistake that's happening within that technology, what you do next with it. So I know, like, sometimes I've used technology and I'm like, oh, this is awful, I'll never use this again. But then I'm like, wait a minute, what am I missing here? And so just that flexibility mindset of being open-minded is key, I think.
Perfect, thank you. I have one last question for the Teachers of the Year, and then I have a question from a Teacher of the Year for the Ed Preps. And then if anybody on here has questions, please put them in the chat or throw them out there when I'm finished. The last question is, what type of training helped you prepare your work with English learners? Whoever wants to jump in first.
I'll just jump in. I have a minor in Spanish. So we have a migrant population in the Traverse City area because of all the cherry farms and stuff. So oftentimes, you know, I've been used as a resource throughout the years. Before we had a stronger ELL component through our ISD, they would utilize me to help with some trainings. That was way a long time ago, but I felt very comfortable coming out of MSU for my undergrad because I had that background. So.
Perfect, thank you. Sasha?
High school math teacher here, minimal. Unfortunately, I'm just going to be honest there. I don't really have any other than I just leaned on individuals that is in the building for what I didn't know. And I just asked a whole bunch of questions. That's it.
I think for me, so Rochester is very unique in that it's very diverse, but there's not one ELL language. Like there is, I think at one point there was like 40 different languages being spoken at our high school. So it's like very small pockets of all these different things. And so we've had training, but the best training I've had is actually the technology tools that have come out that can assist classroom teachers. One of them is called Helper Bird, and Helper Bird takes text and can translate it. It can change the reading level and things like that. That is one of the best uses of AI technology that we were taught from our ELL person with the district. And I just think that that is so valuable in training because, again, we get all sorts of different languages.
Perfect. Well, those are the questions that I have for the Teachers of the Year. I do have one question, and I'm not sure, Stein, who you want to have answer this, or if you just want somebody to jump in, or if they want to think about it and send us the answer. We're good with that too. The question is, how do professors stay up to date on the latest research-based instructional methods?
Come into our schools. And I mean that wholeheartedly.
Mano, this isn't for you.
No, it isn't. What? Fine. Okay.
You can answer it though.
Okay.
You can.
Well, that's what I think.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I toss it out to my colleagues here who would like to share their thoughts and respond to that.
I agree with Kelly. You know, just being, I'm still relatively new, but in my old position, I was in classrooms with my classroom-based teacher educators on a weekly basis. And that made, and as a researcher and as a co-teacher and as in my national writing project work, we're just working with teachers to be in constant conversation has been a huge part of what has informed my methods instruction. So definitely, and then of course reading research more broadly. But I think the being in a part of the classroom and the school communities is a huge piece of what keeps me up to date.
And I think that's why we're here too. Thank you for the answer. I appreciate that. I think that's why we're here too, because in the past, some of you have asked our Teachers of the Year to do professional development for your candidates or a night class or something like that. So even that interaction would be really helpful for our cohorts moving forward and for this one as well. And as you can see, they're very professional and their expertise shines through, and it's across the board for all 10 of them. So if you would like them to come in and do that sort of thing for you or with you, that would be great.
Jennifer, I would just add too that when professors are able to go in and be student teaching supervisors and actually be in the classrooms more, I think that has a lot of power to it. We also have professors whose research lines are directly related to current practices in the classroom. I think those are some really strong connections as well. And I think that a lot of professors would welcome invitations from the Teachers of the Year to come into your classrooms. So don't hesitate to reach out to the EPPs that you're currently working with and just say, hey, I'm doing a lesson on Romeo and Juliet. And Kelly says, come on, Audra, come on in. I want you to see what we're doing. But I think sometimes direct invitations right to the professors might help balance that out a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you.
Gina, go ahead.
I would also like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that these are critical partners, and these are partners that you can engage with as part of your accreditation processes. The whole piece of accreditation partner engagement is to find experts in the field and people that you engage with and see, like this lesson plan comment that I really want to kind of bring up again. That lesson plan comment was amazing because there's a disconnect between what happens at the EPP and what happens in the field. And at accreditation visits, we are hearing more and more from administrators and cooperating teachers that those lesson plan formats are unreasonable. But we don't, what we need and what you need to connect that is to bring them in, listen to them, and then show how you've adjusted based on that feedback. And then that's when you've got a solid partnership demonstration for your accreditation case. So I really want to emphasize that these kinds of engagements aren't just about that. It's about true partnerships where you're actually asking for advice and then taking it and making changes because of it. Those are the kinds of things that's the kind of evidence your accreditors want to see, those accreditation teams want to see. So thank you all for your partnership and your advice. And I think this is an amazing opportunity for you all to increase and strengthen those partnerships for yourselves.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. Also, this cohort meets 11 times a year and 7 or 8 times in person all day. So if any of you would like to come and sit with us or speak with us, you're more than welcome to do that as well. We feed you breakfast and lunch. So, you're more than welcome. We want to continue to build out this partnership and this relationship. And I go to bed thinking at night of how I can do that to make this team better. So thank you for having us. We appreciate this. And next year we're going to have more people. I got a lot of messages that they're stuck in a classroom. So I know that you all understand that. Oh, I see Dr. Bazzi. She's coming in.
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer, for facilitating this, and to Kelly and Sasha and Molly for joining.